Hello, Dennis, and welcome back to the Dennis Del Valle Show. Today, we are going to talk about dysregulation, the worst you. So tell me, what is dysregulation, and how do you know if you're dysregulated, I guess is the second part of that question. I think this is a really important topic because there are lots of opportunities to become dysregulated in life,
Yes.
just in your modern life. And so I think it's really important to define what we mean by that, and then try to find some examples. So why don't you tell us, what is that, and how can I
Yeah.
know?
So if you think about those conversations or those experiences where you're like, what did I just do? And you're full of regret, that is a situation where you are likely dysregulated. It's that worst self that comes forward, that you say those things that you didn't really mean. I mean, maybe you felt it, but you didn't really mean it. You do things that you really regret. And that's likely when you were dysregulated. So what I mean by dysregulated, it comes from, we think about your neurobiology. You have a nervous system, and your nervous system, it's supposed to help you in life. And so it sends all of these powerful, even unconsciously, hormones into your system to prepare you for difficult situations, trying situations. And it can be as little as something like someone pulls out in front of you when you're driving, right? Without thinking, you swerve. Without thinking, you slam on your brakes. Your nervous system is wired to keep you alive, to save you. I remember one time I was in Florida. I was running through this area along this trail, and all of a sudden I just, for no reason, just stopped dead. And I looked up, and right in front of my face was this huge spider. And that's my nervous system. It's wired to keep us alive. Well, then that, you think about the nervous system. There's this famous amygdala where it teaches you to fight, to fly, to freeze under stress. And so this fabulous nervous system that we have that protects us, keeps us alive, runs our body without even thinking, right? Like our breathing and our heart rate, respiratory, all these things, right? Well, this same nervous system that keeps you alive can hijack you under stressful situation. And so a client comes to you and they're angry and they're confronting you, right? You're a coworker, one of your employees, in this stressful situation triggers your nervous system. And it thinks, oh my gosh, I'm under attack. I need to fight. I need to run away, or I need to freeze, like the possum. Those possums, they freeze, they look dead. That's a way that they protect themselves. That is the amygdala functions. And those functions really disrupt when we are in a stressful relational situation. And it really can get us in trouble. We call it an amygdala hijack. And so you want to stay engaged. You're trying to talk to someone. It could be someone you really care about. It could be a child, like I said, a client, and it gets heated. The conversation gets heated up. He is stressed, and you experience what's called the amygdala hijack. And this is the experience of dysregulation. So physically, what's it like? Telltale signs is your heart rate. Your resting heart rate, anywhere between 55 and 65. Normally, we're just sitting here and it just beats. Well, when you're dysregulated, your heart starts beating out of your chest. Your breathing becomes pressured. Maybe you're even holding your breath. You notice your thoughts, they're racing. Your body temperature heats up. Your eyes get laser focused, right? These are some of the physical manifestations. Some of the relational manifestations is, especially during conflict, what you start doing is all your thoughts are really focused on how you are right and the other person's wrong. And when you're listening, all you're doing is thinking of your responses and your arguments and how you're going to dismantle their arguments. And this is all disruptive to what would be a healthy, helpful conversation. And so this dysregulation, it's deadly for us, right? Because the neurobiology here is, if we were doing some kind of a brain image while you were in this dysregulated place, fight, flight, or freeze, you would see there's not much activity happening in your prefrontal cortex, right? Where we do complex thinking, reasoning, logic, empathy, thinking with nuance, complexity. All of this happens in our prefrontal cortex. Instead, what you'd see is a lot of activity in your deeper brain that sometimes is referred to as the reptilian brain. That's where the amygdala land, the fight, flight, or freeze. And so, you say something like, man, I really lost my mind in that conversation. And that's literally true. You lose your mind when you're dysregulated. You lose your thinking brain, your prefrontal cortex, and you get into what's called like reactive brain, where you're just reactive, responding, not being mindful. Instead, you're mindless. You're just reacting, responding. And so this dysregulation, like I was saying, it's really deadly to our business relationships, our leadership, and our personal relationships, right? We get triggered, we're stressed, something's really upsetting us, we're angry, and we push through. We keep talking, we keep engaging. That's where we get in trouble. And so I know, Brandon, you're a young parent, you have a young child, you're young in your parenting, and I really want to encourage you, Brandon, when you are dysregulated, you need to hold off and pull back. You're not going to be a thoughtful parent when you're in that state. Okay. And secondly, and this is just a little parenting side fun. I hope this is okay. That you also, as a parent, make mistakes when you are. Sorry, my cat's going to dysregulate me here. Okay. You don't want to parent a dysregulated child because their brain is so fried, they're not really there. And so we need to employ what's called a timeout, right? Timeouts aren't punishments. Timeouts are a break to give everyone a chance to get their full mind back engaged. So when we parent, we want a child that's present, not dysregulated, that they can't take in what you're saying. And so now that's like a parenting, but this also applies to our relationships. When we are flooded, when we're triggered, when our hearts beat pounding, if we can become aware of that, become aware of how dysregulated we are, then we can start intervening productively. So what do we do? What's productive? Well, we need to get back to a regulated state. And so, like I was saying with parenting, being a timeout is a great thing. If you're getting into it with a coworker and you're dysregulated, they're dysregulated, just call a timeout. Hey, why don't we take a 5-minute break? Let's come back and tackle this again. Okay. If you're not, or I could say, if I'm not too dysregulated, I can sense, oh, it's coming. You can, in the moment, start trying to get regulated by using deep breathing. Your breath is the fastest way to get regulated. And so you take these deep breaths and you trick your body. It's like a hack. You trick your body into relaxing. And the body's like, oh, everything must be okay. We're breathing slowly. Another way that you can kind of trick your body is talk softly. Proverb says a soft answer turneth away wrath, but an angry, harsh answer inflames it, right? Triggers. And so just talking slowly, talking softly will de-escalate you and the other person. I have a friend who's the master of this. He works with children. He's a principal and he's masterful. But to bring these skills, you have to have awareness. And I'm going to confess that I've known about this. I've understood it. I've been teaching it for the last 5 years, but it's taken me these 5 years to really grow the habit of being aware that, okay, I'm dysregulated, and believing the worst Dennis is going to be coming out here. And so I need to take a break. And so we have to start doing regular habits to help us be aware of our state, our emotional state. And so one of my suggestions is practicing mindfulness. Now, Brandon, do you have an Apple Watch?
No, I should.
No Apple Watch. Okay. Well,
unfortunately, no, I've got a little Casio from Amazon.
Oh, Casio, right. Well, if you have an Apple Watch, there's an icon that's on it. It's like a little flower, and you can set it to give you reminders to do a mindfulness activity. And in a mindfulness activity, it's just about becoming present. You can do it for 5 seconds. You can do it for a minute. Just something to help you wake up to your system, wake up to your stress level, your feeling. And all it does on my watch, it'll kind of vibrate and then remind me to do some deep breathing. So deep breathing. Another great mindfulness activity is to run through your 5 senses. So sight, taste, hearing, vision, feeling, right? What's going on inside. And just notice what your 5 senses are taking in. So these are ways to bring your mind fully into the present, into circumstances, versus, what we do, right? We're getting lots done. We're busy. We're checking things off our list, but we kind of become mindless, right? And this is where we really upset people that work with us, our family, because they tell us, hey, you're not engaged, you're not present. Like, I need you to slow down and listen to me. When we're in that kind of busy, going hard, getting stuff done, we're not mindful of ourselves and others. I have some of my executives tell me they can go a whole day and forget to eat. They'll look at their watch and go, oh my gosh, it's 2:00. I haven't even gone to the bathroom today. And it's like, and they become, oh my gosh, I need to, you can get running so hard that it's like you can cut off your awareness to your body.
I do that all the time.
So hunger, tiredness, even going to the bathroom, you don't even realize it. And you're sitting in a bad posture and your back is killing you, but you're so focused and lost in your work that you lose track of your body. So this is the problem. This can become a huge problem because, unfortunately, we can have these seasons where we stay dysregulated. We're working so hard, we're under so much stress, and it happens that you just get so and you come home exhausted and you're crashing, you're worthless, you're completely checked out, right? You're shut down, because shut down is another way that we're dysregulated, right? Where you can't talk to your family, you hang out with your friends. You're just so tired. All you can do is, fall on the couch and start watching Netflix. That's a sign of dysregulation on the other end. So depression is dysregulation, shutdown, relational stonewalling. These two are signs of dysregulation. So we can be dysregulation on the top end with anger, rage, going hard. We can also be dysregulated on the bottom end, the low end of depression, disconnected, kind of that glassy-eyed look, you get, right? You've seen it, right? Dissociation. Yeah. This is also dysregulation. And so when we're dysregulated, we don't give our best self to the people around us and to our tasks, especially our complex tasks. We want to be regulated. So regulated is that I'm present, I'm engaged, I can imagine what you're struggling with or what you're feeling. That's called empathy, right? I imagine what's going on in you. These are signs that you're regulated. Your heart rate is stable. Okay, your thoughts aren't racing, right? You can take turns and really listen. And so that's the regulated state.
I want to take a deep breath.
Yes. Let's take a deep breath and make sure we're regulated.
I let it out. I've learned a couple of things. One is I feel like I'm more dysregulated than I imagined, than I, originally thought. That I think my heart rate, my lack of empathy, lack of creativity, you mentioned some of those things as signs of dysregulation, that where it's not, I don't feel like I'm in fight or flight, really. Like I don't feel like I'm, super stressed. Right. But if I'm not feeling that like calm, empathetic, creative side of me, maybe I am. That there is a side of dysregulation to something going on, maybe something larger or maybe under the surface that I don't really know.
Exactly.
Is that
a
fair?
Great way to think of it is it's like a band or a window. What we want is to have a nice wide range called the window of tolerance, where we're patient and we can really track with people and even have high energy or lower energy, but it's in this window of engagement, a window of thriving. What we find is that when we're dysregulated, especially over time, that window shrinks and we are impatient, we're more reactive. Think about when you're driving, like driving is a good test for me. If I find I'm irritated with everybody on the road and all the stoplights, I know, okay, Dennis is dysregulated. If everything's just irritating me, that's a sign that my window has shrunk and I need to really pay attention and do some work to get back regulated. Now, one thing I haven't talked about yet is that people help regulate us. That is the right kind of people. Your safe people that are good, your friends, family members that are good coworkers, that are good listeners, that they're very accepting and they draw you out. And that's called co-regulation. And so when you have that good friend, that good conversation, it regulates you. You think about times maybe you've been upset and you've talked to that. Could be a coworker, could be a boss, maybe your leader. And you've gone away from that conversation feeling much better. That was a regulating conversation, that we were doing co-regulation. So we can regulate each other, as we share about our struggles or our tension or our feelings about maybe a client or a difficult project we're on. That's co-regulation. And co-regulation is powerful. Over time, that's what helps keep us regulated. So, Brandon, like you're saying, if you're finding yourself really dysregulated, you're doing the breathing and those things and they help in the moment. But in general, you notice that your window of tolerance, your patience is wearing thin. It's probably a sign that you're lacking co-regulation, those powerful relationships that come alongside you and help you process life, business, difficult clients.
That's helpful. I think, over the last year, I have a 16-month-old daughter, so that's been dysregulating, and then starting a business has been dysregulating, and so I have that. There's this quote I heard the other day. You mentioned driving, that everybody faster than you is a maniac, and everybody slower than you is an idiot.
Exactly.
And it's like I have that kind of impatience these days. So, so yeah, I like that. I like that. You mentioned that. I'm wondering. I have some other questions about that, of course. But I'm wondering. You mentioned, so like there's a spider. I hate spiders. So that can, things like that, trigger your amygdala response, your reptilian brain. And then you mentioned confrontation, which I think is really great. That is the case for me. We talked about last episode about the TPRAT and some of my low scores and weaknesses, maybe confrontation with adults or having that adulthood component, we can get into that. But the other thing I'm curious your thoughts on, can like politics or war or the economy or some of these large anxieties that people feel, people in my family, friends of mine, coworkers who have this like, low grade anxiety about some of these larger issues in the world. Can that trigger that same kind of dysregulation?
Yeah. And the problem with this, our nervous system, is, if you especially if you read about, like in the context of intimate relationships, this nervous system we have isn't really evolved well. Like it really keeps us surviving in a dangerous world where there's spiders and cars. But in this complicated world of politics and parenting and work relationships, the nervous system doesn't distinguish between what is a relational irritation and what is really a threat to your life. And that's how it is that we get so stressed out by things we read in the news that have nothing to do with us personally. I mean, it could be on the other side of the world. And yet the way our nervous system responds, it's as if it's happening to you. And in a similar way, and I'm sure you can relate to me, my wife will come to me, Kimber, and confront me on something, like maybe the dishes, or maybe talk about driving, something in my driving. And my nervous system responds as if my very life is being threatened. The feelings that come up, the response, it's like I'm ready to go to war. And yet it's just a conversation, And so, yes, you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, the downside of our nervous system is it doesn't distinguish between, problems in politics or government policy or IRS code, things that stress us out, and that which is truly life-threatening. Someone chasing after you with a knife. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish it, so your body responds as if that's happening. And so on that note, I just want to make a plug. Hey, be careful about what kind of news you're consuming and the time you spend, because your poor nervous system and then your body is getting fatigued from all that. And so you really have to be careful how much of that you take in, and then is it balanced with gratitude, right? I think I talked about gratitude. Is it balanced with seeing the good that's in the world, the good that's around you, acts of random kindness, Unfortunately, we're so attuned to threats and dangers that we just focus on everything that's going wrong. And we miss, the lovely birds, the flowers that are blooming right now, all the things that are working around us. We miss that, and we hone in on what's not working, and it dysregulates us. And that's, as I've been talking, that's a huge, huge problem. And it keeps you from being your best self, and it promotes that kind of worst version of you that you regret.
I think I was just having a conversation with somebody yesterday close to me about my age. I'm 34. And I think in our generation, we have we're very dysregulated. And I don't think we know
Mm-hmm.
it because we're focused on so much in the world that is totally outside of our
Yes.
control. Like I said, war, politics,
Yes.
etc. And to your point, we can't distinguish whether that's a real threat or not. We're just hyped up and angry and fearful and all of that. So I'm curious, you mentioned some things that you can do to improve your awareness, I think in the short
Mm-hmm.
term, some short quick fixes like breathing or some body awareness. But how do you mentioned this a bit, but like, how do you cultivate that habit, like you say, like that habit of being more regulated or more aware? What are some things that are kind of long term? Like if this is something that I wanted to improve
Yes.
over the next 5 years, what are some practices in my life or lifestyles or even, adding relationships or removing relationships from my life? Like, what are some things that would make me a more regulated, aware person, just down to my
Yes.
soul, over the next several years, 10 years,
Yeah.
lifetime, that kind of thing. Anything like that you found that's helpful?
Well, I think starting with mindfulness, and Daniel Siegel, you can Google that. He has a great practice, a mindfulness practice. He calls it the wheel of awareness, because we want to get aware of um, what our regulated state, how dysregulated we are. And so he has a great, thought thing. We're just kind of run through, how are you experiencing your body? How are you experiencing your relationships? How are you experiencing yourself in relationships? How are you experiencing yourself in your goals? And what kind of stress are you under? And then being proactive. And I love that you brought up relationships. These mindfulness practices can help you be aware of relationships that are dysregulating. You might have some family members or coworkers that just, every time you talk to them, you go away just drained. And the awareness helps you to notice, because if you're just like running through life quickly, you don't really notice, like, you just, at the end of the day, you're exhausted. But if you have those breaks throughout the day where you just for 5 seconds, you can just take a breath and notice, oh my gosh, that person always drains me every time I talk to them. And so can I make some choices, different choices with my time, with my investment? And also being aware of people that really fill your tank, that charge your battery, that leave you leave with more than you came into with. And being aware that I need more of that. I need to get that in my schedule. And unfortunately, we're so quick to meet the needs of our clients, our organizations, our children, but we neglect our own needs, and we just keep pushing through. And this is the thing that I do the most in my executive coaching, really, is helping people wake up to their needs. And because the reality is, they would never let their employees exist in such a bad shape as they're existing. They would never let their computer systems be that long out of date. They would never neglect the machinery, right? Go in such disarray. But all the executives I work with, they just run themselves ragged, and they kind of think it's fine and it's okay. And so might take an executive coach, a couple sessions to kind of wake up and take a hard look at, hey, how is this sustainable, the path you're on? And let's look at productive ways, making some practical changes to get you, in your best self, in your regulated self? What are those relationships you need to cut out? What do you need to add in? You know, exercise. We haven't talked about exercise. Exercise is incredibly regulating. I just heard someone say we need about 8 hugs a day, physical, safe contact. Extremely helpful for our nervous system and releasing
That's a lot
oxytocin.
of hugs.
So how many hugs have you had today, Rand?
Man, one? That's a lot
That's
of
a
hugs.
lot of hugs.
8 hugs a day. Wow, I'm severely depleted in my hug calculus today. Interesting. I love the analogy they use of how, you know, people run a business and they want to run a tight ship, you know, the technology, the finances, the operations, whatever. But the internal operating system, if you want to call it that, is seriously neglected, yes, which impacts your performance in your business or in your home life and all of that. Yeah, I think that's really, really helpful. I do not exercise enough, so that is something to check off.
Maybe get to the gym, lift those weights.
I know, that's right. Well, as we close, do you have any final thoughts or something to leave our listeners with that kind of what's a big takeaway? Like, would it be mindfulness is the big deal, that you should pay attention to that dysregulating forces in your life, or breathe more, slow down? What's the big takeaway?
I think just awareness, like try to become more aware. When those conversations go bad, look at them and notice the dysregulating patterns, and then see, like, hey, can I become more aware of what's happening in me and around me? You know, we've kind of been focusing on awareness of yourself, but it's very powerful when you see others that are dysregulated, because then you know how to move with them to help them become regulated. You know, having a soft tone, offering empathy, understanding. Your regulated nervous system will help regulate theirs when they're dysregulated. So I think just for today, I think it's just awareness. Like, where are you in the window of tolerance? Are you always on the edge? Are you solidly in that patient, empathetic, your full mind available to you, or are you shut down? You know, and let's work on awareness, and then trying some of these small interventions to increase that tolerance, increase that window, so you can bring that better self forward.
Amen. Amen. We've mentioned before the TPRAT assessment. I think that's something that can be really helpful. It's just a base tool to kind of figure out maybe what are some areas in my life that I could improve, or ways that I could be aware. And so you can find that on DennisDelValle.com, and find Dennis on LinkedIn, and definitely go to his website and get in contact if you ever want to reach out and work on this with somebody, with a coach that can really help you go through it. So Dennis, thank you so much for your wisdom here and your advice. I have a lot of work to do, it seems, but I'm really thankful for the way that you described it, because I think it's really, really important that you find that regulation, you find that awareness, and it'll just heal so much of your life. So thanks again, and I'm excited for our next episode.
Thank you, Randy.
All right, see you next time.